Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about XML. XML stands for Extensible Markup Language. It is a very simple and flexible markup language. It consists of data in text format enclosed within self-defined tags. The tags are given by the user and makes the information easily understandable to a user. So how is XML different from HTML? Well, HTML is a hypertext markup language and it is used to create web pages and web applications. By HTML, we can create our own static page. It is used for displaying the data, not to transport the data. Whereas in XML, that is Extensible Markup Language, it is also used to create web pages and web applications, but it is dynamic because it is used to transport the data, not for displaying the data. There are some other differences also between XML and HTML. So let us see. HTML is not case sensitive, whereas XML is case sensitive. HTML tags are predefined tags, but XML tags are user-defined tags. There is limited number of tags in HTML, whereas XML tags are extensible. HTML does not preserve white spaces, but white spaces are preserved in XML. HTML tags are used for displaying the data. XML tags are used for describing the data, not for displaying. In HTML, closing tags are not necessary. In XML, closing tags are necessary. HTML is static and XML is dynamic. Now let us see how to write a very simple XML code and how to save it and to display the document tree in a browser. So now we will run this code. Let's see. Here you can see the XML code that we have written and its document tree. Now, an XML document is called a well-formed document only when it satisfies these certain rules. First, a well-formed XML document must have a corresponding end tag for all of its start tags. Second, nesting of elements within each other in an XML document must be proper, and you can see the example for it. Third, in each element, two attributes must not have the same value, and you can see the example for it. Third, markup characters must be properly specified, for example, as you can see here. Fifth, an XML document can contain only one root element. So the root element of an XML document is an element which is present only once in an XML document, and it does not appear as a child element within any other element. Next, we will also see what is an XML parser and what is a DTD. So first let us discuss XML Parser. XML Parser is a software that reads an XML document, identifies all the XML tags, and passes the data to the various applications. So there are two types of XML Parser. First is the non-validating parser. Now non-validating parsers ensure that a document meets the general rules of XML, that is a well-formed XML document, such as there's only one root element or that tags are properly balanced or nested or not. Second is the validating parser. Now validating parser performs more rigorous checks, such as making sure the document conforms to the rules laid out by its document type definition, that is DTD. Now what is a DTD? We will discuss about it a bit later, but there is also a website www.xmlvalidation.com where we can go and paste our codes in order to check whether our XML document is valid or not. So what is a DTD? Now a DTD is a document type definition. A DTD defines the structure and the legal elements and attributes of an XML document. So a DTD provides a list of elements contained in an XML document and their relationships to one another. The structure of the XML document must match the structure defined by the DTD. So there are two types of DTD. First is the internal DTD and second is external DTD. So what we will see in the upcoming codes is the internal DTD. So let us first see what is an internal DTD and how is it defined. So if the DTD is declared inside the XML document, that is it must be wrapped inside the type definition, then that DTD is called a internal DTD. Here you can see an example. Here we have defined the structure for the XML file inside the code. and just after defining the structure, that is the doc type definition, we have written the code of the XML body. So let us try to interpret how the DTD will interpret the code. So the first point is the doc type. The doc type note defines that the root element of this document is note. Second, the element note defines that the note element must contain 4 elements. So what are the 4 elements? 2, from, head and body. Now, what those elements 2, from, heading and body will contain, that will be defined by the next 4 points. That is the element 2, which defines the 2 element to be of type PC data. That means what? It will accept a data. Similarly, element from is a element of type PC data. Element heading is also a element of type PC data. Element body is also the element of type PC data. So the root element is the note, and inside the note, what are the elements that are present that we have declared within the parenthesis are 2, from, heading and body. So these are the child elements of the root element note. Now let us see how to declare an external DTD. So if the DTD is declared in an external file, that is, the doc type definition must contain a reference to the DTD. But in the internal DTD, the doc type definition must contain the DTD declaration. But here we can see that the doc type will contain the reference to the DTD file. So here is an example, and you can see here the doc type note system within double quotations node.dtd. So this node.dtd is the external DTD. So this node.dtd will contain the following statements. First, the element node, element 2, element from, element heading and body. So these statements were earlier declared inside the XML file itself, but now it is declared outside the XML file and it is saved as node.dtd, whereas the XML files will be saved as something.xml. Now we will see an XML code using DTD, and we will also see the content type specifications while declaring child elements. So there are a total of 4 types of content type specifications: empty, any, mixed content and normal children elements. So in this code we will see the empty content. So the empty content is a special case of element declaration. This element declaration does not contain any content. These are declared with the keyword empty, and you can see the syntax. Now we will copy this code and check this code in an online validating parser, that is www.xmlvalidation.com. We have declared the element salary as empty, and in the XML file we have not given any data within the salary text. So after validating, we have not found any errors. So now let us see what will happen if we give some data inside the salary tag, though it is declared as an empty content. And we can see that the parser shows the error that the content of the element type salary must match the content type empty. And once you run the code, you can see the XML tree of the code. Now we will see how to declare the element content any. Well, we can declare an element using the any keyword in the content. Any is useful when we have yet to decide the allowable contents of the element. You can see the syntax of the any content here. And once you run the code, you can see the XML tree of the code. Now we will see how to declare a mixed content. Well, it is used to declare elements that contain a mixture of child elements and PC data. Here you can see the general format. Now there are some points that we need to follow while declaring a mixed content. The PC data must come first in the mixed content declaration, and the operator star must follow the mixed content declaration if the child elements are included, as you can see in the syntax. In this code, we will use the mixed content. We will also declare the child element inside the element tag, and we will see that it works. And we will also declare the PC data of the EMP name tag, and we will see that it works, because in this code, the EMP name can take directly data, and it can also take the child element EMP number and this data. Now we will talk about two symbols that are used to separate child elements. So the first is the comma and the second is the pipe symbol. So when we will separate the child elements using the comma symbol, all those elements must appear strictly in the order in which they are defined in the element declaration, that is in DTD. But if we use the pipe symbol to separate those child elements, then the elements may appear one or more times in any order. As you can see here in the chart, the definition and an example when separated by both comma and pipe symbols is given when the elements are separated by comma and when the elements are separated by the pipe symbol. Now we will discuss about the symbols that decide how many times a child element can appear in the XML document. In this code, we will use all those symbols and we will see how it works. So as you can see, the symbols are explained on the screen. So the first symbol is the question mark. Now whichever element is assigned this symbol, it indicates that that element may not appear at all, or if it appears then it may appear only once in the XML document. Second is the asterisk. Now whichever element is assigned this symbol, it will indicate that that element may not appear at all, that is 0, or if it appears, it may appear once, twice, or as many times in the XML document, that is 0 or many. Third is the plus symbol. Now this symbol indicates that an element must appear at least once. That means it has to appear at least once or any number of times in the XML document. If it wants, it can appear more than once in the XML document. Now here you can see that the member element has the symbol plus. That means the member element must appear at least once and it can appear more than once. So here member is the parent element, so it has to appear. Then we can see the line element has the symbol question mark. That means the line can only appear at least once or it may not appear. Again, we can see similarly that the mobile element has the symbol star, which means that mobile may not appear, but even if it appears, we can declare it not only once but more than once at a time. And now we will run the code, and here you can see the document structure of the code. Now we will discuss about attribute list declaration. Here you can see the syntax for the attribute list declaration. Along with that, the informations that are contained while declaring an attribute. So the first thing that we need to declare while declaring an attribute is the element name. That means the element to which an attribute is associated. Second is the attribute name, that is the name of the attribute. Third is the attribute type, that is the type of the attribute. And fourth is the attribute value, that is the value, the default value of the attribute. So here we will see a code where we will declare some attributes. So let's see. Now you can see in the code how an attribute is declared. So first we need to type the keyword at least, then the name of the element, then the name of the attribute, and the last part of the attribute declaration list, that is the default value of the attribute. Now the default value of the attribute has 4 variations, as you can see here. First is required, second is implied, fixed, and supplied. We will use the required values whenever we want to specify that an attribute is required. That means it is must. At that moment we will use the required keyword. We will use the implied value only when the attribute we are declaring has no default value, has no fixed value, and is not required. Then we must declare the attribute as implied. It means the keyword #imply is used if we do not want to specify any attributes to be included in the element. We will use the fixed value when we want to specify that the attribute value is constant and cannot be changed. So a common use of fixed attribute is specifying version numbers. So the keyword #fixed indicates that the value is the only value for the attribute of the element. And supplied, here the DTD supplies the default value of the attribute if it is not provided in the XML document. So if the value is supplied, the supplied value is automatically used. Now let us use all the 4 variations of the default values of an attribute in the upcoming code, and let us see the results. Here, using the fixed value of an attribute, we can see that the XML file automatically displays the attribute and the value of that attribute. Similarly, you can change the 4 variations of an attribute as per the syntax shown before in the video and try it on your own and see the respective results. So now we will discuss about an entity. Well, an entity is a sequence of characters used to represent another sequence of characters. There are some characters that have special interpretations in XML. For example, the greater than and the less than symbols are used to delimit text and therefore cannot be placed inside the data directly. So we have to use some reference for doing that. As you can see that an entity has 3 parts, an ampersand, entity name, and a semicolon. So there are 2 types of entities. One is the predefined entity and the other is the user defined entity. Well, this chart shows the predefined entity. So here are some of the predefined entities and the reference that we will use to type inside the code, inside the XML file to display them. So let us now also discuss about user defined entity, and here you can see the basic syntax for making any user defined entity. So in this code we will see how to use a predefined entity and we will also see how to use a user defined entity. So let's see. Here we have directly tried to place the greater than and the less than character inside the data entry, but when we will run this code we will see an error, as the greater than and the less than sign cannot be placed inside the data directly because they are interpreted as special characters in XML. So here we will find that error. So in order to rectify this error, we need to use the predefined entities. Now you can see that the XML file is able to display the greater than and the less than sign as a PC data. Now we will see how to declare a user-defined entity and how to place the name of that entity between an ampersand and a semicolon symbol, and how to utilize it in a XML file. So here I am declaring two user-defined entities. One is TO2 and the other is RE, and the value of the two entity and the value of the RE entity are given inside single quotations respectively. So once we run the code, we will be able to see the predefined entities, and also we will see that the user-defined entities are working as well.